Hello, humans. Welcome to. Actually, I should really come up with a title on the fly really fast. I could do it. I could do it. No, 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 no. Hello, humans. Welcome to God Save the German Queen. This is episode 55 of your Power Report, and I am Dan from the internet. It's a day. It is a day and a half here. And thank you very much for joining us on this day. We have a lot of news, and gonna do something a little bit different. Gonna start with some headlines as I'm getting the festivities going over here. Definitely sound off in the chat. I have YouTube chat open. I have Twitch chat open. So, yes. 'Tis going to be a time. Oh yeah, so some of the headlines. Let me get that going while I have them on my phone right now. Sorry, I'm doing a bunch of different things. So, of course, we'll be talking in a moment that Queen Elizabeth of England has died. And there's a lot to talk about her legacy. Some people being very harsh, some people papering over things that they should probably remember. A lot of that we'll be discussing momentarily. In just a second, I'll be bringing in some of the Power Report guests. We'll have Bam, Caesar, and Sean here at varying points of the day. Steve Bannon has surrendered to courts, saying that he is getting ready to basically testify. And so that should be eventful. He previously said that he would only do it basically if he were forced to, but it's looking like he's going to be doing that anyways. Meanwhile, over Labor Day, to try to bury the information, a Trump-appointed federal judge said that a special master has to review the information regarding the Trump investigation into having classified documents at his Mar-a-Lago property. And the existence of the special master is something we'll be talking about because what the hell is a special master? This is a new thing. It's like parliamentarian, special master, special counsel. These are all things that we're just learning about that are new. But bunch of shenanigans going on. The nonpartisan Politico owner has been discovered doing a very, very weird kind of Trump rally. And a CNN host has been changed. There's been a couple changes over at CNN. One journalist who was staunchly warning about January 6th and talking about those things has been let go of. Meanwhile, a former cop who perpetuated a lot of anti-Muslim sentiment in New York is on the ballot. Not on the ballot, but I mean actually hired by CNN now, which is very interesting. More news in a moment. We have our first guest hopping in here. Let me get C's on the screener Rooney in a moment. Oh, and Bam. Wow. This is a special occasion. I'll have y'all up in a moment. So Bam and C's PowerPort Originals, original PowerPort 4. We're going to be breaking down some of the news together. Once I get my chat box in order. Let me make sure my mic. Yeah, no, my mic should be right. I mean, my AC is blowing, but yeah, that. Yeah, you sound good to me, C's. Sorry for this non-compelling television stream, but it's all right. We out here. Oh my God, did you use Justin TV? Were you a Justiner? Whoa. That's a completely fair point.
I watched many insane videos on YouTube before Google said no more.
Oh boy, I had that.
Before, come on, man, it's TOS, dog. We're on Twitch.
Oh wait, no, we're not on yet, are we?
Yeah, you're not live. I mean, like, you're not playing over the stream or anything. I would never unmute you or anything like that. That'd be crazy. like a pinata. Well, I guess without further ado, since one of my screens is working here, let's bring Bam on. Bam, well, actually, everyone's sound will be live now based on how I have it, but now you're on stream. How's it going? Say hi to everyone.
Doing great, doing just fine. Let me get in this box though.
Now, I was gonna move you a little bit, but like, yeah, no, you're good. 1, 2, set and doodly do. All right. Now let's get C's in here. Oh wait, no, look, there we go. All of us. Happy days are here again.
Hey, everybody.
So, I was just going through a couple other headlines before we really go into some things. Any Juul fans here? Any Juul fans? Apparently, they have to pay $440 million in a settlement launched by states to investigate teenage vaping. Apparently, there may be some payouts for some vapors as well, but might have to be kids though. So,
are they gonna wait? Are they gonna pay out? Did you say it might be kids or it might not be kids?
I need to read more about the information on it. I think that it's gonna be. It was done on behalf of kids that states did. Basically, states did this lawsuit. So I'll have to read more into that as we get time. Something I thought would be really nice for y'all as we're doing headlines. The U.S. women's national team signed a collective bargaining agreement for equal pay with the sorry ass U.S. men's national team. I am not for gender equity in soccer. I believe the women should be paid much more.
Yeah, that's that We Made It podcast influence.
That's the truth right there. Dan spoke the truth right there.
Yeah, we've been saying it since 2017 that the women should get paid more than the men. That's justice.
Yeah, equality is the minimum. I mean, like, maybe if the men start balling a little bit better, then we'll revisit this conversation.
If
but
they
right
get a
now,
trophy once, they can talk.
Yeah, but right now they're lucky to be in the ball game right now.
Yes.
Anyways, what should we just jump into it, boys? What?
I mean,
the news of the day is that all the news is sort of stopped because we experienced one of the more beautiful things in the world today, which is death Twitter. I believe death Twitter is just when you see both the best and worst of humanity on display. Today, Queen Elizabeth II was on the chopping block, and I have like a whole collection of things and posts and stuff I could go into, but off the top, I think before we get into some of the good reactions, some of the bad reactions, I think what I observed from today was that a lot of people view the Queen as who she is, which is a representative of British monarchy. And British monarchy has the, ties in history to British rule and all of those horrible things that it did. There's at one point 150 years ago where the saying was the sun never sets on the English Empire because it was so far reaching. What happened in the parts of the English Empire or derivatives of it? Slavery, internment, mass wealth extraction, and resource extraction. People will counter and say, all right, okay, but all that stuff happened for Queen Elizabeth's time. A lot of what Queen Elizabeth presided over was the winding down of the English colonial state. And I have 3 points for that. One, and perhaps most importantly, Queen Elizabeth has no power. Bam, I think this is something we were kind of talking about here. So before I go on a monologue, jump in on this, because I know you would really like this part.
Well, yeah, it's just weird that, when you had said that earlier, I'm like, well, she doesn't do anything. She's just a figurehead. In 1688, Oliver Cromwell made sure that was the case. And all of that was based on slavery too, the knocking down of the power of the British crown. But I don't really understand the monarchy hype. And then I guess the people that are thinking that she's responsible for England's or the United Kingdom's policies, that's absolutely not. Like you're like almost getting into that conspiracy theory realm. I feel like when you start saying that, you know what I mean? Like that's the beginning of it.
See, as you're laughing, go in.
It's like, I think people are caught in Game of Thrones. It doesn't work like that no more. Tony Blair has done way more for British policy than Queen Elizabeth ever done in history of her life. And that's Tony Blair and Jamie Foxx and Tony Blair both have done more.
Well, I disagree with a little bit of that, because I started this by saying the Queen of England is a figurehead, and I had like 3 points to all the points of people saying that, okay, she has no power or influence or things like that, or like she wasn't responsible for these things. Yeah, it's true. England has a constitutional monarchy and has for the entire time, like post World War II, even before that, where, the main duties of government are done in Parliament with the House of Lords and the House of Commons. You can go down the undemocratic paths of that. But it's essentially most of the information goes through that, like most of the parts of government go through that parliament. You do have the case where technically the monarch is the commander-in-chief of the British Armed Forces, and there were a number of instances. I'll have some videos to show later on as C's is showing off the dogs and cats that he has. Little petting zoo over here. But she was in a lot of situations. Like, you have people who are in countries like Jamaica, countries like Kenya, who have a very knowing history of their parents, their grandparents, witnessing the Queen of England come over there on, different missions based on what the country was, to try and convince the country to stay within the British Empire, to stay within colonial rule. And, with everything that the Queen of England represents, with everything the British monarchy represents, came a lot of bloodshed, a lot of people being beaten in countries that England was trying to hold its resource grip on. Even without the violence, I'm not going to put the violence aside there, but England basically would not allow these countries to break free from their colonial state until England got what they wanted, which were most of their resources or the corporate ties to be able to really work in there. So I don't like this idea that, people are complicated, especially when they die. Like, there are people who had great personal stories about Rush Limbaugh, for example, right? Like, they were saying he was a great person. I was saying, screw that guy, right? But
okay.
No, like, people were, but like, people live complicated lives. They make mistakes. They don't. But when you're in the context of the kind of show we're doing, where we're looking at like world news, national news, what's happening recently, history, what we're looking at in the future and how different communities have usually been far away from that conversation. Like, you look at British Broadcasting Corporation right now, and it looks like, North Korean state TV, right? Like, there's not a lick of, hey, can we take a balanced kind of view of this? Like, almost even American TV, when recent politicians have died, like, you've had people, get chastised, but they'll come on and say, hey, by the way, we do want to point out that this person actually has this history of terrible war things. Like, I remember the John McCain, there was at least this controversy of even talking about it. But in English media on BBC right now, which, generally we applaud for being pretty on it world news-wise, is just going to this complete, immediate Anglo washing of the situation.
Well, do you think part of that is because she's a figurehead and not necessarily a politician? Like, I feel like if it was Tony Blair that died, you would get a lot of praise of him in the BBC, but you would get the criticism too, because there are more things to criticize politically.
That's why I get back to, it's because of what the monarchy represents. Like, I did a visit to England that I'm going to release in a special video that I'm hopefully going to get done soon. And part of what I was talking about with people there is that there's a big generational divide with who's even really into the monarchy. Because for a lot of people who are celebrating the Platinum Jubilee early in June, where the Queen had her 60th, 65th or whatever anniversary of being in power, at the same time, there's a cost of living crisis in England. At the same time, Boris Johnson was about to get asked out of Parliament. Literally that weekend, as the weekend was ending, the vote of no confidence was being held, all right? So, there's, I think, an annoyance with modern British people, who are actually there, that I've spoken to, about, why does this, vestige of old times take up so much attention, take up so much taxpayer money and space, when we're having major crises? We're just coming out of COVID. We are just trying to get these actual issues here. When there's supposed to be a actual separation of these things for our lives. And sure, we love celebrations and parties and holidays and all these things like that. But when you have cost of living is insane. These are things we talk about in America too, how rent is going up, gas is going up. You don't even want to know what an electricity bill looks like in England, because it is substantially worse than anywhere in the United States. So, there are all these things, and again, it's not Queen Elizabeth who's saying, all of these things do go to me, although there are things that Queen Elizabeth does decree and do that are not that great. More on that later. But it is to say that she represents the monarchy and everything that people have negative feelings about it, and so this is an opportunity for a lot of people to kvetch and get their feelings out there. We may not like a lot of their tones, but you can also find corners of the internet that are doing nothing but highlighting, little anecdotes about her life and history and legacy, which I believe are good to do. You should have a balance about that, but you should be real about it as well. And also notice we're not going I haven't gone to the whole let's show the crab rape video yet of, haha, the Queen is dead, haha, yeah. I mean, some of those tweets are really funny, but that, I think you can have a nuanced conversation here.
Wait, Caesar, were you gonna say something or no?
Also, all I was gonna say is that I think that she's in that balance of being I think when people talk about the emotions behind it, I think it's because there's a very statue she's very she's there's a symbolism to her. Now, my opinion, that symbolism is terrible. Anytime we have the worst thing ever is a monarchy. Literally, these people are just bloodlines of especially historically horrific things, and then for the future they just inherit through bloodlines immense power and wealth and stuff. That is something that's completely against everything I believe in fundamentally. So her passing, to me, another person passed. Oh, there you go, out of the world. But I think when people are getting emotional about it now, of course, this is just sitting the devil's advocate. It's people in their shoes. It's oh, this person is is a representative, almost representative of England. This is someone we always talk about. When there was all that celebrity gossip and all that stuff going on with Meghan Markle, everything that you could tell by the clicks and the attention online. There's a fascination still with the Queen Elizabeth, with the throne, with all that stuff. There's a fascination Even when we do shows and media that are talking about medieval times in history, they do really well. People are still obsessed with that time period. So there's like a lot of like
New
pieces
Game
that
of Thrones,
intertwine.
like
Game of
reboot.
Thrones, House of Dragons, whatever the hell, all that stuff, man. The Man of Many Faces, whatever you're watching. All that stuff has symbolism. So I think that that's why there's like a little bit of emotion to it. But I agree with you, Dan. I have some friends too that are in England and they've always kind of cracked jokes. Like, but it's always funny. Like, they don't, to me, like my friends, they're cracking jokes kind of like low key, but then they always make that second joke where it's like almost like the, like, your mama joke where it's like, oh, okay, too far. All right, now you pushing it. Like, what? What do you mean?
It's funny because I feel like when it comes to monarchies, like people feel like with the queen, it's like that's my queen. Like this is like this person like represents me personally. Like there is some sense of like that bloodline, like the citizens are part of the bloodline almost. Like it's a weird thing, and I've noticed that with even other countries that have monarchies that are even like the monarchies actually rule. Like the people feel like, you know, the king is kind of off limits a little bit. Like this person is very important. And I would imagine it's not the same in England because the queen is just a figurehead. But and then I don't know, like I don't know if you wanted to get into this now or later, but when you're talking about what she represents, to me she represents colonialism. Like I just think about, like you mentioned, Kenya and the Mau Mau's and um, the troubles in Ireland, in Northern Ireland. Like that's what the Queen represents to me, and like the crown, I guess. It just represents, like you said, slavery, colonialism, and the people that are around the world that suffered from that crown. You know, needing their reparations and asking for them in a lot of places.
Yeah, we can absolutely go into like those points. I'm still working on getting like my picture up, but I I think it's balanced there because like there's I've never like everyone gets their own sort of like forms of media they enjoy. I don't like kind of like pick on people for that necessarily, but I've never quite understood the fascination necessarily like with Americans with royalty, especially like English royalty, because it's just like I also like, but I'm also just the person who doesn't understand like American nationalism either to like a very fundamental level. So like I guess just any like worship of power, I understand that. So like it's and I think this is a really interesting point from LG in the chat who will definitely be keeping me honest tonight. But she notes that she's on the throne so damn long that 80% of Britons don't know life without her and don't don't dive into that colonialism aspect. I'm sorry, we're probably gonna have to do that anyways. But
You know, I remember when Princess Di died in that car accident. I remember seeing videos of people.
oh, you mean
in
the false
Jamaica.
flag?
Uh, she's probably still alive in Cuba, but I remember seeing
Along with the
people
Sada.
people in Jamaica crying, like bawling, crying about Princess Di.
Even Brazil are crying.
Like, I mean, and I'm sure there are people that are in like the realm of England, British colonialism today that are like bawling over Queen Elizabeth's death. Like they feel it on like a visceral, personal level. Like I'm sure there are so many people, and it's funny. I wonder like I wonder if it's like more in like Barbados and like
I was about to
Jamaica
ask you that.
than it is in like Canada. Like I feel like them people
Good
down there
question.
care more than like Canadians care. I don't know why, but
Yeah, I don't fully understand it either. And for a lot of people, like I saw a lot of posts on Twitter from, yeah, like I said, Jamaicans, Kenyans who are like, this feels like a particularly different thing to me. Like this is a realer kind of situation. Like that in the sense that like they are closer to the worst of English colonialism for them. I mean, like them actually having to fight for their independence, like those battles where, yeah, the Queen was coming on behalf of England Parliament and whoever was prime minister at the time were also doing actions, of course, but the English state was trying to encourage other colonized states to essentially stay within the fold and doing it by force. I think it's a good time to go to. I want to see if I can pull up this. Yes, I have it right here. There's a story of a woman here who was being interviewed earlier this year by DW, who was talking about how she was tortured during the Kenya struggle with independence against England. And so I'll get to that clip in just a moment, but yeah, someone say something just to like give me 30 seconds.
England almost got Colombia, by the way. They fought a war over there, and one of Caesar and I's favorite players, Falcao, actually has English lineage because they fought a war with the Spanish over there in Cartagena. They did lose, but they got Jamaica from the Spanish.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lack of knowledge really on how much England spread England's colonialism. England, Portugal, few of those European countries, how much colonizing they did worldwide, how they just literally went into other people's land and just started wrecking mess and doing whatever they wanted. And then but if you think about it, like, isn't it crazy that in 2022, like, Canada is still the way it is? Like, isn't that like wild? Like, literally it's still like that, where it's like there's British Columbia and there's the French side, and there's still no president of like Canada, like they have a prime minister. Like, it's still like we have so much, like, quote unquote, like, we have so much democracy worldwide, so many like elections and stuff. It's so interesting to me that like there's like interesting versions of it worldwide, especially in places that England took over, you know?
Yeah. Let me get this so y'all. Let's play this part from DW, this German news. So it says, Matoni Matenge is challenging Queen Elizabeth. Let Elizabeth bring what belongs to me. That's what I want to say. No middlemen in between. Let the compensation come directly to me. You should look for a sensible person and send it here. So Matoni wants compensation for being tortured by British troops during Kenya's fight for independence. That is going to explain here that she was part of the Mau Mau Rebellion, which Bam was just talking about. It began in 1952, which was just after the Queen assumed the throne. But she still played a pretty strong part in this, again, visiting the country several times, trying to kind of push how things were going. And with this guy, Matoni's husband was a rebel fighting with the British colonizer. And so Matoni's kind of talking on behalf of this, saying she was tortured as well. When the British soldiers came looking for him, I said I had not seen him for 6 days. I refused to tell them. Informing on the fighters was like signing your own death warrant. And so British troops tortured her, hoping she would give up her husband's location. She resisted, and neighbors later helped her find him in the forest. He nursed my wounds and even my legs. Even if you look at this leg, you can see it's pierced with an axe twice. But Matoni was originally caught by British troops as they brutally suppressed the rebellion. Along with thousands of other Kenyans, she was detained in inhumane conditions. Thousands more were killed. At times, the dead bodies would fill up 2 lorries, so like trucks, like 18-wheelers, and we would bury them all day. We weren't allowed back inside before we buried them all. We'd bury 6 people per grave, but to pile them on top of each other. This is really, really detailed stuff. So the British government paid compensation to more than 5,000 rebels in 2013. But Matangi says without a lawyer, she was not able to claim any money from the situation. Now she just wants justice from the British heads of states. This is just like one example here. And like there's another anecdote I remember that was saying, look, Queen Elizabeth actually disagreed with Margaret Thatcher when Margaret Thatcher was deciding to or opting against sanctioning South Africa during their apartheid struggle. So apparently Queen Elizabeth was vocal against, no, we need to sanction South Africa and be against all this stuff, when Margaret Thatcher was in favor of just like, you know, letting them do their genocide willy-nilly. So like you have little moments here and there, but ultimately it is what, first of all, if any of this could have not happened in the 1950s, because she was A, the queen, and B, yeah, the commander-in-chief in England. But the monarchy is a system. It represents colonialism and imperialism of a particularly English flavor, but especially in the latter half of the 20th century, it was something that a lot of countries are sort of just following America's lead, especially since America was doing a lot of rebuilding of Europe post World War II.
Yeah, I mean, and watching this, the Mau Mau uprising is, you know, not something that's like talked about so much. Obviously, it's Kenya, but when they're talking about those thousands, like just think about the millions of people that died in India. Like the British rule in India was brutal, like extremely brutal, and they stole so much, and I don't think they gave anything back. I mean, and you can't give those lives back, obviously, but I mean, the British rule in India it was like they caused a lot of deaths, and then it just led to so much death and poverty afterwards. I mean, just like anybody else, I don't really keep up with what the Queen is talking about, but I don't really know what she apologized for or, you know, had regret that the people that came before her were responsible for. I don't know, but I do know that who was the prime minister before Boris? Was it Cameron?
I believe
Dave
so.
Cameron?
Yeah, David Cameron.
Yeah, he actually got some reparations, and I would imagine it's from the crown because his family were slave owners, and when they abolished slavery, the slave owners got reparations for their slaves that were going to get taken away from them, their property. And David Cameron, like I want to say like 7-8 years ago, got reparations because his family were slave owners.
It's disgusting.
I don't think Jamaica got a dime.
That's insane. So like basically, because like let's talk about what that implies here. It's pretty simple. That implies that, oh, the British government owes you because you lost productivity from the slaves we freed.
Yeah.
Not that we owe the slaves for being kept as pets and being stripped of their Magna Carta freedoms. Right? Like it's she represents a system, and so she's rightfully or not going to be the target of a lot of criticism of that system. Pretty much the only monarch that's going to get celebrated is whatever monarch decides to do away with the whole monarchy side of the constitutional system at all, where they have any sort of power, where they're taking any sort of British taxpayer money, especially when that money can be better allocated towards social services that British people very much want. But beefing up the NHS, which has seen increasing budget cuts as people are trying to privatize the healthcare there. There's just like, I can go on and on about the things that actual British people are saying about how this is, it's a bloated thing that I think a lot of people want to revisit and no longer have play such a major role in their country's affairs. We haven't even talked about, well, I mean, one thing as I'm have it up right now, we know based on this scandal that happened about 10 years ago that England was systematically destroying records of colonial crimes that happened under the crown. Basically, it was this whole report where over 50 years, these pages were purged or either hidden like Trump Mar-a-Lago style in places where they weren't supposed to be. And says the discovery puts the Foreign Office in an embarrassing, scandalous position, saying that these documents should have been in the public archives in the 1980s, so it's long overdue. England has policies where these documents eventually get declassified unless they're under special situations. It's pretty common practice in a lot of modern democracies. Enjoy it while it lasts. And United States has as well with certain things. That's why a couple of documents about the Kennedy assassination were starting to come out a couple years ago. But, like it wasn't anything, like conclusive, blowing the door off the wall. If anything, it just made the conspiracies more aflutter, so to speak. But I think one of the hardest, just to get into some of the fun here, one of the hardest tweets I saw about the entire situation, kind of summing up what a lot of people thought about the Queen and what a lot of people saw it as representing, was and parroting a lot of the reaction, is this tweet that says, "Please be respectful when talking about the Queen. She was a head of state, a monarch, a mother to multiple pedophiles, and most importantly, a devoted cousin to her husband."
It's an island, man. What are you supposed to do?
It was kind of wacky though. We do know there's a lot of incest in the royal family and a lot of Germanness in the royal family, but I didn't know that she was originally married to her cousin.
Yeah, I had no idea.
I went back and Googled that, and that was how the marriage went.
A lot of people around the world marry their cousins. I'm not about to be a cousin marrying shamer.
I am.
What's going on here?
I feel pretty good. I didn't have that much to talk about with the Queen to begin with, so either right to out of it. In chat, let's see.
Yeah. I got homies out in Leeds. I'm not trying to be, I'm not trying to be smoking on the Queen pack and doing all that. I'm okay.
I think for us, here, we just it just doesn't really ruffle our feathers at all. She's hella old, and who cares? I don't want to speak for you guys, but for me, it's just who cares?
No, I'm a Brazilian that immigrated to America. I don't have anything to do with this, man. I'm sorry for your loss. It's another day. Let's go.
I grew up in England, and other than Twitter is really fun today because you know what? Twitter is going to be even more lit when Kissinger dies. All right. Hopefully we can all unite around the Kissinger death day, and we can all make fun of whatever asshats try to do something about, oh well, how come liberals have no respect for our war criminals like Henry Kissinger? When Henry Kissinger was blasting the lives of Southeastern Asians all over the globe, he was actually doing it with respect now, the valor of his country. And how dare you disintegrate him in his hour of time of death? I literally cannot wait for Henry Kissinger to...
I think Dick Cheney will die before him.
Want to put money on that?
I don't gamble with my money. I gamble with my life.
Damn.
Want to put your life on that? Winner gets Dick Cheney's artificial heart. Okay,
I saw that tweet, and I saw some other ones that were kind of funny. I saw one that had a trash can lid, and it was "Here's your crown, Queen." That was pretty funny.
Oh, that's your ears going blue now. That's just. No, I'm kidding. I'm gonna see if I can find the video of Bannon getting dog walked to jail. Yes. Ooh. We've got the whole thing here. I'm gonna play the video right now because it's great stuff.
Bannon.
This is what happens the last.
Ran out of countries to hide or what?
This is what happens the last days of a dying regime.
Oh,
they will never shut
bracelet.
their mouth and kill me first. I have not yet begun to fight.
Great head of hair, though.
He says, "This is what happens during the last days of a dying regime, and I have not started my fight."
No. What are you gonna do, Bannon? Are you gonna go flip Argentina again? Chile? What's next?
I think his billionaire Chinese homeboy has let him go.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot his name, but I don't think. Well, he's not living on his yacht anymore. But I think that guy let him go.
Yeah, he has decided to, according to CNN, which, oh, I've got some stuff on CNN in a moment. But Steve Bannon has pled not guilty, sorry, of course not, to New York State charges of money laundering and conspiracy and fraud related to the border wall effort. So get this, MAGA chuds. Remember that fundraiser to build the border wall that Trump was talking about doing himself?
You mean the one that Mexico didn't pay for?
Yeah. Guess what?
Oh.
He said that, oh, it's okay. Us patriots will pay for it. Actually, y'all not even paying for it. Bannon straight took that money. What do y'all expect, honestly?
And it's interesting because I feel like, if I'm not mistaken, that's the same charge that Trump pardoned him for federally, but New York State is picking up the charges.
That's correct.
So, I mean, sometimes the justice system does give you some ones you're like, nice.
the Trump did the get out of jail card, or Trump, and then they said that's only federally, my friend. You walk on this state, you're gonna get arrested. My friend was in the wrong boat in the wrong state.
Literally.
Listen, all these Republicans be like, "Hey, states' rights. I don't care about the federal government. Let's bring it down to the states." Until they hear the Cops theme song from the '90s start playing in the background on muffled speakers.
If states' rights means that states are going to start arresting people like Steve Bannon, we can revisit that conversation.
And honestly, ever since the kind of whole Trump phenomenon began, back when it did, Steve Bannon was always the one I was the most worried about. Like, he's an actual ideologue. He wants to see, and he's been around for a while, kind of doing things, producing films, and he's an old Wall Street guy too, but he definitely has an ideology that is terrible. He wants to see people like us. He wants the worst for us. I don't want to say like necessarily enslave. It's probably worse than that. But he's a white supremacist. He's a Christian supremacist, I guess, a Christian nationalist, and he's one of the worst, most dangerous people in the world. He's got a lot of influence. He was out there in Spain. He was out there in Brazil with the Bolsonaro's family. The Vox party, I want to say, in Spain, he did a lot for them. That right-wing party based out of Sevilla, if I'm not mistaken. And they ended up winning seats in Sevilla, and he was like out there at that time. He's out there in Eastern Europe. He's all over the world trying to like make the right-wing movement pop more. And he's very dangerous.
100%. He is. Look, Steve Bannon was that guy who. Oh, I love this graphic right here. We're going to have to pause on. So, basically, after I get to more of the dangers of Bannon in a moment. So, these Bannon surrendering on state charges, it comes after. Oh, I love this. Trump pardoned him on federal fraud charges related to an alleged scheme, and the Manhattan DA opened a probe on the Trump pardon. So you're exactly right, Bam. That pardon was really suspicious. So the Manhattan DA was like, okay, I got some power here. Let's see what we can work out. The prosecutors alleged that donors were told that all donations would go to the border wall, but that was definitely not the case, apparently not the case, and Steve Bannon was using that for other things. What other things? Again, this is what the investigation is supposed to find out and hopefully bring to light for us, because this is, an unorthodox action where the president is asking for citizens to fundraise for a thing when usually, there's like taxes and a process going through Congress to do that kind of stuff. But of course, Trump works with hucksters, Trump works with shysters, but he also works with people who envision America and being a ethno-state for European descendants. And he has said as much as so, based on the books he has idolized, the people he has surrounded himself with, the influences like Richard Spencer, the far right the white nationalist influences that Bannon has brought into the Trump circle are more than enough reason for us to want him to be extremely far away from any form of power. Nevertheless, he has a good chance of getting some form of power because he is one of those, like, listen, a lot of people have dropped the ball, so to speak, for Donald Trump. And by that, I mean, there are a lot of people who were really expected to, how do I put this? Donald Trump is a guy who goes, I need loyalty, I expect loyalty all the time, right? He is this guy who is willing to filter out people who are not sufficiently loyal to him, who are not sufficiently willing to get their neck cut in public for him, right? Steve Bannon, by walking out in the silver bracelets that we were just talking about, is showing, yes, daddy, I will go farther than Michael Cohen. I will go farther than John Bolton. I will go farther than everybody else. I will get arrested for you because I'm on this mission. You will get me the power, and the mission is ethno-state for European descendants.
Absolutely. And we heard that audio of Steve Bannon talking about what was going to happen when if Trump was losing in the election. You know, he came right out and said it. So you know that he's. I mean, and I guess he didn't show up for some subpoenas. He's like kind of declined some subpoenas or whatever you call it. But you know, he was there for the planning of the whole attempted coup. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a lot of it was his idea. But he was very excited for that. And I think that obviously he was out of the White House, I want to say 2018, kind of early he was out of the White House. But for sure, if Trump would have won the 2020 election, Steve Bannon would have been right back in there.
I totally agree. Let me catch up with chat, see what's going on for y'all. I have so many tabs open on so many computers. I just need a day to just like settle it all down. But first time chatter, a Darcy, I'll deal with that. A Darcy says, I'm in a New York state of mind, talking about the Manhattan DA investigations, which we love that, and also welcome to the stream. We appreciate you. Also, we hit 60 followers on the channel. Hell yeah, look at that. Love that. Wait, Letterhack says Seinfeld producer. He installed Stephen Miller. I could see Stephen Miller being on Seinfeld. Maybe I just don't like get that, but like I could also see him like just being a character on Seinfeld. It's like he has the look.
I'm uncomfortable with that. I'm uncomfortable.
I know exactly what like center divider I'm crashing into. I'm just gonna like keep moving past it. Don't worry, this will buff out. Letterhack also says, and we shouldn't forget the Mercer family, who funds a lot of GOP candidates, brought Bannon on to Trump's campaign originally. Yeah, that's what I was kind of saying. Like, he brought a lot of the worst people in the Trump's inner circle. Like, I remember when the Mercer family was directly funding Milo Yiannopoulos until they realized that, okay, Milo was kind of too crazy for us. But Milo was a direct example of the Trump strategy of provoking the left, getting videos of their reactions, you know, because they actually care about people, twisting that into saying, oh no, we, the perpetrators, are actually the real victims. And then, you know, triggering the libs to judicial victories, legislative victories, and getting people into state houses and onto congressional seats who are these far right extremists. So, yeah, that's absolutely there. Your friend Sam says, gag, not the yes daddy. LMFAO. Hi, Sam. Yeah. 100 followers, Dan shaves his head, hard pass. Hey, Darcy, this is Adam from YouTube. Thank you for joining on Twitch, Adam. Good to see you on here. So, what? There were some other fun news stories this week. There's like a lot to oh, well, there is. Have you all seen any updates on the Uvalde thing? Apparently, so there's some dumb shit going on here. Like, we all know summer is just like a really violent time in general, but like there was a story yesterday about like a teenager who was just like on the loose in some city, like shooting people. Memphis. Yeah. Well, was there any updates on that? Like, was anyone caught or arrested on that, or is just someone still at large?
I'm not sure, but I did see a video and it was very wild.
I will not be looking for that video nor trying to find it, but
No, they didn't arrest anybody. It just says the investigation's underway still.
USA Today is reporting that a suspect is in custody.
Hmm.
Let me get it up on here. Love having this so much faster, except for that. Yeah, they said Ezekiel DeJuan Kelly, 19, was arrested after a carjacking, and apparently he had been charged with attempted first-degree murder 2 years ago and with aggravated assault, but pleaded guilty to aggravated assault and was able to get his time shortened. But basically he's saying, throw the book at him. If Kelly had served his full sentence, he would still be in prison and 4 of our fellow citizens would still be alive. So, yeah, it's a really tragic thing. I believe one of the people who was shot, unfortunately, was a nurse also. So, that's pretty sad for sure. And then what I was just seeing here is, because this is just the America shooting blog. Apparently, there was a shooting in the Uvalde town square just recently. Yeah, let's pull this up right here. There were 2 people who were shot in Uvalde's Memorial Park. At a certain point, it was an active shooting, but apparently this is gang related. But it just goes to show, okay, this is just how America be sometimes with all this violence. Like, Uvalde has already seen so much violence over the past, with that shooting. Like, schools have started right now, but it's turning out that they're just going to demolish that Uvalde school and not have any students just go there ever again because it's just such a traumatizing experience.
Yeah. I can imagine.
We also had that situation in Canada where those 2 guys killed 10 people and injured a bunch more. They're both of the people are dead now, but that was terrible too. I don't know what their motive could have been, but that was insane. And I saw some videos on that too.
Yeah. Since I have it up here, we'll watch this thing on the Canadian, Nova Scotia's killings.
At approximately 3:30 p.m., the suspect vehicle was seen traveling south on Highway 11, south of Roster.
They're talking about the second brother. This was 2 brothers who went a stabbing spree. And, of course, the motive's not known. Will probably never be truly known since both the brothers are dead now. But I was reading that a lot of the victims were indigenous. And, given a lot of the politics that's going on with, indigenous people in Canada, that could certainly raise some alarm bells. Bam, what are you going to say?
Well, I think both of those brothers were indigenous also.
Interesting.
To ensure the safety of drivers on the highway, the vehicle was directed off the road and into a nearby ditch. Police officers surrounded the vehicle and, through verbal identification, confirmed the identity of the driver to be Miles Sanderson. He was arrested by police and taken into custody. A knife was located inside the vehicle. Shortly after his arrest, he went into medical distress. Nearby, EMS were called by police to attend the scene, and he was transported to a hospital in Saskatoon. He was pronounced deceased at the hospital. Saskatchewan RCMP has requested the Saskatoon Police Service and the Saskatchewan Incident Response Team to conduct the independent external investigation into circumstances surrounding the incident.
Okay, so yeah, it is pretty unclear why this happens, but yeah, the list of dead includes Earl Burns, 66, a school bus driver on an indigenous community who, wounded in a stabbing rampage, managed to board his bus and head towards a village for help. He died along the way and the bus veered off a gravel road. It was still there Wednesday, sitting in a ditch with a police-covered cruiser beside it covered in dust. And Burns, just one of 6 members of an extended family, killed in a knife attack. So, apparently Sanderson was family too, and the 32-year-old was the common-law husband of Mr. Burns' daughter, and he told the parole that he was granted early release from prison earlier this year, that he intended to reunite with her. He and his brother Damien were both formally accused in the attacks. So it's gonna be like a family-related thing. It just is real tragic what's going on. I mean, I don't know. A lot of shows don't really kind of get, like, I think there's like a tension in society overall that this is kind of like relating towards. And you know, people are obviously like, it feels like things are getting more and more violent. Like, I don't know if there's like data to back that up, but it feels like in regular society you're getting just more and more of these events happening.
I don't know. It's hard to say. But so wait, they're saying that this is like a family issue. Like they were like those guys were looking to possibly murder some family members.
Well, so there's a relationship between, so the bus driver who was stabbed, his daughter was the husband of one of the people who was stabbed. And so apparently that guy who went on the stabbing was on parole, was granted an early release from prison, and really wanted to reunite with the daughter. So
Gotcha.
based on us kind of figuring out, piecing together the aspects of the situation, it seems like, you know, I don't want to necessarily say star-crossed lovers, because that's not like the right tone. Like,
yeah.
you know.
But it's just crazy because I remember I think it's the largest mass shooting in Canadian history just a couple of years ago. That guy was also, he ended up killing like 22 people, but initially he was trying to find his wife. Like he was killing his neighbors, like looking for his wife. So it was like also like a domestic violence type of situation also. So I don't know if this is exactly the same thing, but it's kind of crazy that these two horrific incidents that happened in Canada is like domestic violence situation. It's crazy.
Messi, what do you think?
When I was reading about this case, I was curious. So didn't they say that there was like also like there's been a rise in like stabbings this year as well too?
Yeah, I can maybe like get some more stuff on that or looking into that. I'll look that up, Jamie. But
we'll get Jamie on that ASAP. No,
Yeah.
I was wondering. I was really curious on what was kind of going on. I have a friend of mine that was from Saskatoon, and you know he's never really talked about like any kind of like stuff like this, like kind of really happening, just being known for that. And I was just kind of like, this was like a really case. It made me actually like want to kind of read more about Saskatchewan and specifically Saskatoon, just kind of learn more a little bit about the area because I hadn't really heard or even seen it. In fact, this made headlines. I was like, oh man, that's crazy. And it's super sad too.
I was watching. They'd interviewed somebody who lived lived where the stabbings were happening, and she was saying that you know they don't even lock their doors. Like it's really safe there. Like they don't even lock their cars ever. That person was saying like there has been like a little bit more like gangs and like some gang violence, but like the area is like very safe and like everybody knows each other, and they're completely shocked that this happened.
It's sad.
yeah, I'm reading some stuff. The Vancouver Sun. This was in 2021. But basically, Vancouver police crime statistics don't specifically record knife violence, but between 2015 and 2020, weapons offenses nearly doubled from 437 to 971. And, you know, in Canada, even though they have pretty lax gun laws compared to the rest of the world, and pretty similar to the many parts of the United States, most of the like violent deaths, basically, knives were used knives were the most common weapons to be used and not guns. And this article is largely about a trend for knife violence increasing in British Columbia, so like a really major population center in Canada. And so I think, you know, it's really interesting to see how these things get handled. You know, I don't think in Canada Justin Trudeau is going to be able to say, I'm banning knives. That's just not going to work. Like, it's going to be Pete Buttigieg who's coming after Canadians' bread and Justin Trudeau who's coming after their butter because you won't be able to cut shit there. But
It's too stupid. Yeah.
listen, there's nothing in the Canadian Constitution saying there's a right to bear knife. I mean, nothing but
No.
spoons. You're gonna have to use those wooden compostable spoons. That's how you're gonna get in Canada.
Yeah,
Those commies.
I know. I know BC and Vancouver is extremely populated, but I just thought it was very unique that it happened in Saskatchewan. Like that kind of surprised me a lot. Like like Saskatchewan and like Vancouver and all that. It was Saskatoon, Vancouver, like completely polar opposite places. People couldn't be more different, you know.
I could totally see.
Well, there's a large indigenous population in Saskatchewan also,
Yeah.
and sadly, they do struggle with like some of the same issues that Native Americans here do.
Yeah. I'm trying to see. There's one article I found. Because it was so
Yes.
many random things in it that I just didn't want to. It was so. Yes, this is the one. Yes, I believe it was the Daily Beast report. No, it's the Washington Post. Let me get the original. Come on. Okay. So the article here is Politico's new German owner has a contrarian plan for American media. The main thing you should know about Matthias Döpfner, and I'm sorry I don't have Sean here on chat to be able to not slander everyone. Now I'm only just recently paying attention to Bam and chat. You're ridiculous. But the main thing you should know about Matthias Döpfner is this guy says he really wants nonpartisan media to prevail in the United States. He says that, there's this issue with people being too divided, too political, etc. And so he hopes that he can create media that, doesn't fall into the same sorts of problems. There's just one thing with that. Leading up to the election, he held a prayer circle, essentially, for Donald Trump. Like, he held, like, a whole prayer dinner thing. Let me see if I can skip to the praying part. Yeah. Weeks before the 2020 U.S. presidential election, he sent a surprising message to his close executives obtained by the Washington Post. Quote, "Do we all want to get together for an hour on the morning of November 3rd and pray that Donald Trump will again become the president of the United States of America?" Oops.
Gross. You're using God for that?
Like, really, like lotto numbers.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many other logical things to be able to use God for, but Trump winning? Anyways, reading the story. Months after his company bought Politico, Matthias Döpfner stood atop Axel Springer's 19-story headquarters, gazing out the double row of cobblestones that marked the outline of the demolished Berlin Wall, contemplating explaining his global ambitions. Quote, "We want to be a world leader in the digital publisher and democracies around the world." A newcomer to the community of billionaire media moguls, Döpfner is given to bold pronouncements and visionary prescriptions. He's concerned the American press has become too polarized, that legacy brands like the New York Times and the Washington Post are drifting to the left, in his view, while conservative media falls under the sway of Trumpian alternative facts. So in Politico, the fast-growing Beltway political journal, often brought to you by Facebook, Google, and Northrop Grumman, he sees a grand new opportunity. "We want to prove that being nonpartisan is actually the more successful positioning," he said in an interview with the Washington Post, and he called it his biggest and most contrarian bet. Of course, this was before asking for prayer to be held for Donald Trump to be the president of the United States of America.
Is this guy like an American citizen at all, or is he like straight from Germany?
I'm trying to see if there's any. Usually, these kind of things do, like, have like profiles of these people. So let's see. Even before the $1 billion of purchase of Politico last year made him one of the most watched players in American media, Dopfner 59 found a way to make an impression. So this is going to be a lot of like media navel gazing about who this guy is, but no, he's a German businessman and journalist apparently. I've never known his journalist things, but apparently he's been known with the to be in Der Spiegel before. Here's a nice quote here. Dopfner surprised with a confession quote, "I am a non-Jewish Zionist." Alongside the topics of threats from Islamic fundamentalism and the image of the United States and Germany, the discussion also focused on the achievements and failings of the 1968 movement. Dopfner published his opinion on the threat of Islamism in his Welt essay, "The West and Mocking the Laughter of Islamism." Yeah, I don't trust the Islamism people at all. Those are usually not the best.
I don't trust Zionists.
Yeah. Apropos of nothing, Tomas Mundo on YouTube says, "Sees cool disco lights." I agree. Those are nice. We love the purple.
Thank you.
Your friend Sam says he's trying to make entertainment Aryan again. Yeah, except Politico's literally not entertaining. It is one of the most boring things ever. Like, again,
so dry.
I listen to Politico Playbook only because I've already made my bed as like a news person. It's like a 5-minute podcast every day. Usually it tells you what the president and the White House is going to be up to, and like it's a good idea for me to like dip my head into the sewer that is Washington DC on a daily basis to just go, okay, that's what those people in that bubble is thinking. Now I'm going to go listen to Democracy Now! And like actually get the real shit on. But that's really like my podcast routine. But Politico is mostly useful to Washington insiders who, you know, like to move power around, who are looking for the most powerful people in government. They're the hogs. And okay, there's another section for Politico as well. People who supported Hillary. Like people who watch politics as sport, like everything my bad news video was like made to like be against. Those kinds of people are in the bag for people like who like pay attention to Politico. They're the ones who are like watching all the political details like tip after tip. And so if you want to be interested in investing in digital news, you, especially in Politico, it means you want some form of power. I mean, you think about the Washington Post, it's owned by Jeff Bezos. You think about the New York Times, there's like a very powerful family behind that, and they take a lot of pride in being able to, you know, have this newspaper of record and make it into an enterprise that to make it into an enterprise that they can benefit off of. Here's some more interesting things here when we're talking about the separation between political neutrality that he's claiming to have versus the reality that he's not politically neutral. So, oh god, yeah. So, despite his 2020 email to colleagues, which he describes as flippant, that whole Trump thing, Dopfner insists he's never been a supporter of Trump. In an interview with the Post, he describes his own views as eclectic, calling himself a, quote, non-Jewish Zionist with a small L liberal tendencies, deeply concerned about racism and homophobia. Red flags galore. He also worries what he sees. Oh, God. Yes. Here we go, baby. He also worries about what he sees as cancel culture, and in private conversations, friends say, he gripes about identity politics. Dude's Rogan'd up, my friends. He's listening to Benny Shabino, Jordan Peterson. He is on the tap, dudes. Like he's talking about. Well, yes, I am. I really do want to make sure there's no propaganda in the schools.
The worst. The next sentence might be worse.
Okay, one of his sons works as the chief of staff to Peter Thiel, the conservative libertarian tech billionaire turned MAGA kingmaker, but Dopfner has only met him a few times and says they are not close. Yo, I don't trust anyone who has only met him a few times. I barely trust anyone who's only met him once. Also, your son works for him. It's almost like when Donald Trump got inaugurated and he said, no, listen, I'm putting my businesses in a blind trust that is going to be controlled by my children. So I will have nothing to do with my businesses. I will not be making a single cent off of the Trump administration while I am in office. And that lasted for it was a lie when it was being said.
Absolutely.
Sounds like the same shit though. Like you don't have a situation for, oh, my son works for this powerful mover and shaker in American politics while I own this like media magazine here. I'm just going to, just not ask about that, not pick into that at all. Especially when he says, again, he does profess a fondness for contrarians though, and called provocateur Tesla CEO Elon Musk, currently embroiled in litigation over his noisy attempt to take over Twitter independence moderation policies, quote, one of the most inspiring people I've ever met.
He seems like he's just kind of obsessed with like Americans, like these like American kind of like
He's an American.
very rich, controversial people. Like maybe in Germany, like they can't get that much clout like that, but here in America you can. He's like, damn, I wish I could be like that.
He totally isn't a marabou, dude. Like, this guy makes me think that there were too many Germans who got to live after World War II. Like, this is just such a dumb. This is one of the.
You know what, dude? You know what?
I'm kidding.
Get your boy, dude. Get your boy.
I'm kidding. No. Like, I don't get how people like this, especially with German history, other than of course raw power seeking, cannot see that they're on the side of the future Nazis, so to speak, right? Like, while calling for political neutrality from his U.S. media properties, Dopfner comes from a tradition of European publishers who are very much at ease blending ideology with news. That should be a red-ass flag right there. Dopfner comes from a tradition of European publishers who are very much at ease with blending ideology with news. Axel Springer's staff in Germany were required to sign a pledge committing to principles that included a disavowal of racism, sexism, and political or religious extremism, but also a support for a united Europe, Israeli statehood, and a free market economy. Those values are like a constitution, he told the Wall Street Journal. But we talk about how, again, in my bad news video, we talk about how, and this is work that Noam Chomsky has gone into, the media naturally filters for a certain type of person or a certain group of people, so to speak, to get in there, to be a part of there. Not because, Noam Chomsky argues, no, not because they're giving some sort of litmus test in the door saying, you must agree to X, Y, and Z things. You must agree with the imperial state. You must agree with all of these neoliberal principles. But because that you wouldn't have been in these circles and you wouldn't have made it through the door had you not already committed to those things, because they don't want people to rock the boat, okay? So that's the sort of like subtle stuff that Noam Chomsky's talking about. This is a litmus test. This is literally not subtle. This is just a list. This is just a guy going, you can't work for me unless you approve of a united Europe and a free market economy. You can't work for me unless you agree with Israeli statehood and whatever that like entails or implies, right? Like, that is, last year, Dopfner ordered that the Israeli flag be flown in solidarity at company headquarters for a week, after several anti-Semitic outbursts at demonstrations in Germany that followed a deadly eruption of violence in Gaza. Some employees bristled, seeing it as taking sides in the fraught Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Which again, he's not raising up a Palestinian flag at the same time next to the Jewish one. So it's not like this is some principled stance on human rights.
Yeah, I thought he was some kind of a nonpartisan or whatever.
Yeah. Dopfner responded sharply in a staff video call, quote, I'm being very frank with you. If a person who has an issue with an Israeli flag being raised for 1 week here after anti-Semitic demonstrations should look for a new job. All for intellectual diversity, right? Go ahead.
I wonder, I mean, from time to time I will peruse around on Politico, but it is quite dry. And
it's terrible.
I wonder, yeah, and because I have it as I'll check it out every once in a while, but I wonder how much it's going to change because of this guy. Like, because it is like one of those things. It's like one of those sites where you kind of like almost kind of go for the headlines, like, oh, like, what's going on, but you're not necessarily reading those. Like someone like me is not necessarily reading those journalists to like form opinions or ideas about these things that are going on. I wonder how much it'll actually change, and I wonder also if his influence will be like whatever he's talking about wanting to happen will actually be able to happen. Sometimes it don't really work out like the way these people want.
Yeah, like I to your point, like what should Politico be used for? Kind of like how I described Playbook. Like it's my view into a slice of how a certain type of person views politics. Like the same reason I would pay attention to right-wing media is because it's a slice of how they view politics that day. It's that lens. And so Politico represents the establishment. They represent the status quo. They represent not changing things. If there's going to be an article about Bernie Sanders being a slimy, sexist socialist, it's going to come out of Politico. I guarantee it, right? If there's going to be anything that's like, if Kamala Harris wants to leak something about the Joe Biden White House, it's going to Politico. Like, they are scoop machines, along with a lot of other people in Washington media. You have the Washington Post, you have the New York Times that's related, you have Axios, which is former Politico staffers. But what you are going to get is, when the Queen, I said the BBC is a decent, like, outlet to have, right? But there are times when the BBC is not very reliable, and I would say today, when the Queen has passed, this is one of those times when they're not giving a balanced view of really anything. It's just like focused on one sort of thing. Al Jazeera, I'd say, is a very reliable news source. When they start talking about Saudi Arabia or like the government and Qatar and things like that, I tune out a little bit because I know where their interests are. I know where they lie. I know how they're funded. RT, I'd say this is much less can be said now than in the past, but I thought RT had a lot of really good reporters. You had Abby Martin, you had Chris Hedges before he went a little bit out the deep end. Like, you had a lot of really insightful people with journalistic credibility who had at times stood up to their higher ups within Russia at Russia Today. However, you could always kind of know that if they were covering a story on Russia, take it with a grain of salt. Maybe you choose a different source that day. Like,
Yeah.
that's how you really get good about reading the news, is kind of learning, like, okay, not only what am I reading the news about, but who am I reading it from? What interests do they have? What kind of worldview do they represent? Where do they come from? And what is that likely to close them off towards? And I know it can sometimes be a rough assumption to say, like, oh no, you can't assume that these politicians are just like, you can't assume that they don't understand what other people's lives are like just because they don't live them or they don't have any friends who live other walks of life. I can say as a semi-journalistic professional, yeah, you can. You can usually tell just based on where these crowds walk in because they don't do anything else than what they're usually used to.
That's true. I mean, Politico this is the most exciting it's been ever, probably, us talking about it.
Yeah.
I used to follow their Twitter, actually. I thought their Twitter was like decent.
So, like, also, like, what's going to change here? Oh, this is interesting. Duffner and his wife at some thing in Idaho, which both look very German. But I think it's going to be one of those things where, like, when Israel starts doing a lot of coverage of stories involving the Israel-Palestine conflict, when Politico has those stories, you better believe that, like, it's going to have that sort of tinge from the higher ups there. Like, it's undeniable. And so that's sort of why these billionaires buy these newspapers, because they believe in theory, they believe in their version of free speech and freedom of the press, but in reality they want to promote their own messages. And we've seen very clearly, like, what he said in his other papers. If you disagree with my version of standing up for the Israeli state, if you disagree with my interpretation of Zionism, find another job.
Yeah.
If you plan on reporting honestly about anything happening in that situation, like fairly and justly, like how would that situation have happened with that journalist from Al Jazeera? I'm sure Bam, you remember her name, but like who was killed by an Israeli sniper, and they tried to say, oh, that was actually Palestinians firing back at us, when there was video from multiple angles. Like, it was literally, usually the New York Times and like other outlets don't jump into these kinds of things because it involves defending Palestinians, but like they actually did investigations because it was a journalist who went down, and they actually did investigations to see, no, there was no one firing, no there were no like Hamas sort of like rebels or fighters who are trying to infiltrate that area and using the journalists as human shields, which is like always said and propagandized by Israel. Yes, the journalist was wearing a big fat helmet with press on her head once she was shot in the neck by Israeli snipers. So all of that plausible deniability is just far out the window. And when other people were, when medics were trying to come and save her, the Israeli snipers were firing on her again. All right? How would that story have been covered by the New Politico? I think I have my answer.
Even Israel admitted now that they did it. This New Politico would probably be saying that Israel's wrong.
No, like they said that.
Well, I think they said that it's probable.
It's possible.
Like
it's possible. They didn't admit it. They said, it's possible there may be more to the story here, which I agree with those who are saying that's muddying the waters purposely. And yeah, I'm inclined to kind of stick. But yeah, we should definitely keep an eye on this. I think Politico, it's an important resource to know like what kind of people are really like in it at this time, but it just helps to understand their biases. I want to do some Dark Brandon stuff in a moment, but first I'll read some chats on YouTube and Twitch. Your friend Sam says, yeah, I was fed a lot of their stuff when I used to be more active on Facebook. I guess it's like Politico stuff. And yeah, I guess if you choose to follow politics, you'll see Politico things, but it's truly the most boring publication ever. Military dudes who are contracted out to Israel, psychos, yeah. Largely agree. There are better things to be doing with your time, and there are better things to be paid for than shooting minors and families. C's, did you see a lot of the conservatives who were crying over Joe Biden's divisive speech over the weekend?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Let me see if I can find some coverage, because it was really funny to see different Republicans crying over this comment. Let's see. I have a clip from some MSNBC where I'm trying to. Can y'all say something?
Did anybody watch the actual speech?
I've only seen clips of it. Like, I've only seen like when I've only seen like it was at Liberty Hall or whatever. They had it kind of dark red, and they had troops kind of standing behind him.
It looked like that Red Room scene in Star Wars when they fight.
I mean, it looked like a different kind of. It looked like a different kind of Red Room, if you're asking me.
I was like, that's kind of dope.
I mean, it's just funny because I'm like, when I saw the clips, like I didn't even pay attention to the background. Like I didn't even like unless somebody pointed it out, I wouldn't even like notice. Like I don't even care. Like
the weird thing is like when they started doing like the Biden comparison to Hitler, like Sam's talking about in the chat, I'm like, but don't y'all like that? I'm so confused. Like, do you? I can't tell. Sometimes y'all rock with him, sometimes you don't. What's going on here, dude? Like,
So I can't get a beat on conservatives at all.
I have part of the speech right here, and then I'll find some more clips. We can watch the video, but this
Whoever
was some of the
set
highlights.
manager for that was definitely like, well, I'm about to have a good time today. I'm about to get some clicks off this.
Biden's warning tonight that President Joe Biden's warning tonight that equality and democracy are under assault here in the United States. The president addressing the nation tonight from Independence Mall. Action News reporter Annie McCormick, she is live there tonight with more on the president's message, Annie, to all Americans.
Yeah, Gray, that's right. The president ending his speech, urging people to get out and vote in November, and also emphasizing that we are the United States of America. Now, the president was here to bolster fellow Democrats now that we're just weeks away from the midterm elections.
But democracy endures.
President Joe Biden in his primetime speech at Independence Hall saying the fate of American democracy is at stake.
But as I stand here tonight, equality and democracy are under assault. We do ourselves no favor to pretend otherwise. So tonight, I've come to this place where it all began to speak as plainly as I can to the nation.
Biden calling out MAGA Republicans under the leadership of former President Donald Trump, also stating the majority of Republicans are not following the same ideology.
I will not stand by and watch. I will not. The will of the American people be overturned by wild conspiracy theories and baseless evidence-free claims of fraud. I will not stand by and watch elections in this country stolen by people who simply refuse to accept that they lost.
The speech comes just weeks before the midterm elections, where all eyes are on Pennsylvania's gubernatorial and U.S. Senate races. In both races, the Republican candidates are backed by former President Donald Trump. Tonight, the Republican National Committee accusing Biden of using divisive rhetoric, saying in part, quote, entering office, Biden promised a presidency of unity. Since then, Biden has used the office to label those who didn't go along with his agenda as dangerous, semi-fascists, and reinstating a Jim Crow era.
Okay. Biden promised unity. Donald Trump said he was going to kick the Mexicans out. And now the Republicans are saying, oh, so people who don't go along with Biden's unity agenda, which is dubious at best, are dangerous and reinstating a Jim Crow era. Well, yeah. It's funny. The Republicans are not saying they're not. Because if the Republicans would have said that they were against these things, they would start to lose voters. So it's an interesting game. It's like they have to act upset that, oh no, Biden is saying all these things about us. And you have to respond and go, well, are they right? And they go like a libertarian. It's like, well, you know, I don't think women are property. I just think that like they start like getting into some weird like sort of thing where they're trying to out-explain what's actually going on. I found what I really want to find, which is just some of the absolute trash. This is some of the garbage. Here's some of Steven Crowder's reaction to this. Oh my God.
CNN actively tried to change the coloring, from the aggressive fascist blood red to like a fuchsia. And you can see it, and I want to show you this. You can watch it in real time. They said, this looks bad, this looks bad, this looks bad. CNN was running interference for them, and you can see the colors of the flag change, where they become kind of a mauve, right? Yeah. Do you want me to run that clip? Yeah, let's run this clip. Oh, wait, hold on a second, actually. Let's run, clip B.
Okay. Democracy endures only if we, the people, respect the guardrails of the republic. Only
see the background,
if
look at the flag.
we, the people, accept the results of free and fair elections. Only if we, the people,
And you can see it on the flag, the red stripes in the flag.
This is what they've got. Like, nothing about what Joe Biden is even talking about. They're like, hey, I think the cameraman changed the setting on the flag really quick.
Someone go over there and slap that damn thespian up a little bit. Slap him up a little bit. Shut the hell up. Don't come over here on conservative YouTube wearing gun straps talking about fuchsia, dog. Get out of here, man. What are you doing right now? What is this?
My man had me sitting here looking for colors to change. Hey, there's a power crisis going on. Maybe the power was going low. I don't care if they're trying to get Biden to look a little cuter, put some filters on him. I don't care, man. Listen to the speech, you bozo. The hell is that about?
Literally, the color didn't change. And if they tried, Biden's face would be like X-ray if they tried to do that. Like, there's no, like, I mean, obviously Steven Crowder's a clown, and as a Canadian, we don't accept him.
No.
Yeah, it was just interesting. You know, obviously I don't really pay attention to right-wing media. I just see what they're talking about from other left media. And they're just like grasping at anything. It's like, dude, what in the world? Like, you're talking about, it looks like some fascist speech because there's soldiers in the back. Like, they're not like holding, like, if they have like goddamn rocket launchers or something, yeah, sure, okay, that's kind of scary. Or they're like pointing their weapons at the crowd, like, sure, but like, this isn't scary. A couple Marines in the background, like, I'm not scared of that. Like, just because it's red, that's the Republicans' color is red. Like, they should be happy, actually.
I'm so confused. Red is bad now. I'm so confused. Trump had every single Trump rally that goes on. It looks like a damn. It looks like the Death Star is happening. Like, what is going on here? Is red a problem now? Are we no longer Bloods? I'm confused. I thought that we were rocking with this color at the Republican Party. Now it's not. Now it's the fascist color. So the Republican Party is now the fascist colors. Make it make sense to me, Stephen Fake Canadian Crowder, please.
Whoa.
Yeah, I tried to skip ahead to see if Steven Crowder's commentary got any better, but of course this is going to be a bad conservative joke. Let's see what happens.
Republicans are today.
Yeah. And by the way, he also went on, just to be clear, as you see that background, he did go on, this was disturbing, to say this.
Wenn ja, dann tritt für mich ein, so wie ich für dich eingetreten bin.
At least he didn't stumble on his words.
No. I gotta say, he was a better public speaker.
Yes.
For all it was.
First of all, I'm very depressed that
he's still sitting with those two pedos or whatever. His dad and the pedophile, his little pedophile buddy. What is that?
Yep. I have no direct knowledge about Steven Crowder's friends there and what they get up to, but I don't like that he's wearing an Idols shirt. Idols is a very progressive rock band, and very clearly he's too dumb to understand any of the lyrics they're saying. That's like one of Steven Crowder's producers wearing a Rage Against the Machine shirt. Like, you're just straight up in the wrong place, buddy. But they are responding to Biden saying that the Republicans are acting like semi-fascists. And again, there's in the description of this video, he's all like, are you a MAGA Republican or really any kind of Republican? If so, Joe Biden hates you and thinks you're a domestic enemy. Now I see where Steven Crowder gets his like shitty over-the-top tweets from, because the part of the speech I did see is Joe Biden saying, let me say this right from the beginning, I do not mean all Republicans. He was making a separation between MAGA Republicans and regular Republicans, which I think is, again, as a president, as a figurehead, your job is a lot different. So you have to talk not only about Republican politicians, but you have to talk about Republican voters. And not all Republican voters like super plugged into all this shit. And so you have to definitely give them some leeway and let them be all like, listen, you are not one of those like crazy Trump people. You're allowed to have space and say, hey, listen, I've identified as Republican all my life, but I don't like the whole storming of the Capitol. I thought some of the, in retrospect, racism and sexism and bigotry of the Trump administration was kind of bad, even though I went with it all along. Listen, if Biden's supposed to be this unifier, this milquetoast guy who brings across all these people across the political spectrum and does nothing else, because that was his only qualifying factor during the Democratic convention, then sure, okay, that's fine. But Republicans are only going to come at him by saying, no, actually, you're Hitler. For what? Like, proposing and failing like a program where you could like do drugs and like in a safe spot and not get like Like, 'cause remember that like whole Safe Needles program they're gonna try to do, and then all the conservatives were like, the Democrats are gonna give crack out on the streets.
They're gonna give them crack pipes. Yeah.
Yeah, like that was. I'm trying to get to what I was going to with. They are trying to accuse Joe Biden of being Hitler, but they don't have any sort of response to saying, okay, well, Joe Biden's saying that you're all acting fascistic and you're not really responding to that in any reasonable way. I mean, like, I've seen you go, okay, no, you're Hitler. I've seen you lie about his speech. I've seen you make some jokes about, the light and the coloring behind him of the flag and stuff. I have not seen anything of substance here at all.
It's just crazy because, I mean, obviously nobody's going to be able to talk back to this loser, Steven Crowder, with his holster.
Yeah, because anytime someone tries to debate him, he runs away like a little bitch.
Yeah.
Never forget he got clapped by Sam Cedar.
Well, he's scared. But just look at all the people that committed violence in the name of the rhetoric that Donald Trump espoused. Like, that's what a fascist leader ends up doing. Getting people to take their ideas and commit horrible acts of violence. Like, obviously, like I said, this fool Crowder, nobody's going to be able to talk to him about it. But to say, oh, Biden's Hitler, or he's like, nobody is out here going to shoot up something in the name of Joe Biden or the Democratic Party. But plenty of people, when Trump was president and after, are out here committing heinous acts of violence. And in their manifestos or on their social media, they're rocking MAGA hats. They're saying the exact same stuff that him and Tucker Carlson are saying every day. El Paso, the guy at the synagogue in Pennsylvania, and the bomber guy, all these people. So yeah, dude, I mean, yeah, Joe Biden's got to qualify it, not all Republicans, and I believe that to some extent, and semi-fascist, but like, yeah, dude, like these people want to implement a no more voting political system in America. If Trump did what he wanted to do in 2020, we wouldn't have never voted again. It'd be over. He's president until he dies.
No, 100%. Here's another story here that, I think is just like right in home and power. This is going to be nice and substantive here. But it turns out that more Americans are using buy now, pay later services for groceries. You're familiar with these, right?
I didn't know you could do that for groceries.
Yeah, so these buy now, pay later services, a lot of times you see them for clothes or electronics or larger purchases. It's basically like the new version of layaway.
Yeah.
You may see, and I've seen this for like, this was an option for a backpack I bought for like $60. It was like okay, you could separate this into 4 interest-free payments of $15, but these are just, micro loans essentially. And these loans get defaulted on very highly because, the kind of person who is taking out a $60 loan because they can't pay for a $60 thing, rather than just deciding to, hey, let me save up for the $60 thing or just pass on the $60 thing, are choosing to extend themselves with credit and then being unable to pay that back, or paying $5 a month on something that does eventually start to accrue interest. So, yeah, this was a fellow at the Harvard Kennedy School who went through this and found that companies like Klarna, Zip, Zilch, and Afterpay or Affirm are looking increasingly attractive, and Jesus Christ. So 2/3 of consumers have worried in the past month about affording groceries due to the rise in inflation. And at the same time, Zip said that it notched 95% growth in U.S. grocery purchases. So imagine being like, you can't even afford groceries on your credit card. You have to take out like a micro loan for your groceries. and then pay back your groceries like, a little bit every month as you can. Crazy.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can even get like a firm Afterpay, all those apps attached to your a smartphone, like your Android or your Apple, as like another version of a wallet, and you can just walk up and use that as the payment immediately. And then what they'll do is they'll be like, "Oh, you're approved for $500." So you have $500 of credit debt through them, and people will use that and then just pay it off monthly, separate through payments because, although people they want to know, there's still people really struggling out here to make ends meet. There's still recession going on and larger layoffs going on, so it sucks, but it's disgusting. And I really think that these companies are gonna get like crazy valuations soon. They're gonna be like massive companies soon because this was very popular in South America years and years ago, but it's now becoming huge here in America itself.
Is this how Caesar's getting all those new shirts every week?
Okay, dog. I'm getting on my shirts through a firm, dog. Yep, 30%
Caesar got a
interest.
new shirt every week.
Why you pocket watching, dog?
After paying all them shirts.
Jay-Z voice. Credit.
I'm gonna get a PC off a firm. Watch. I'm gonna do it for test purposes only, for research purposes.
Now, so go ahead, man.
No, I'm saying no, it's unfortunate. I mean, all jokes aside, it's unfortunate that a lot of people are in that predicament with groceries. I'd never heard of this. I'd never heard of it until now, but definitely you see food prices going up. And a lot of places around the country don't really have the same type of access to grocery stores that have good quality and low prices. So you're just kind of stuck going to, the Food Mart or Food Lion or Piggly Wiggly or whatever. You're going to that's a real place, Caesar. You're just going to your local kind of grocery store and and sometimes they almost, I mean, if you got a situation where it's kind of like a food desert, they got a bit of a monopoly almost, they can raise them prices how they feel in a lot of ways. So yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised by it for sure, but it's really unfortunate.
Yeah. Before we get into that, I'll go on to some of the details about some of these Afterpay things, which, by the way, these companies are actually in the shitter because they're just holding a bunch of debt. They're just holding the poorest people in the country, the most desperate people in the country, their debt. And there are not a lot of people who are benefiting, there are not a lot of companies who are benefiting from this business model. So they're probably going to have to get more aggressive in collecting this debt in order for shareholders to be happy, to your point about whether these companies are going to really be successful or not.
Yeah. I mean, I just think that they peaked a lot during COVID. A lot of people were using them a lot. I remember they kind of exploded onto the scene. I remember they originally become popular. They were from Europe and Australia. I remember a couple of years ago, I wanted to buy this shirt from Australia, and it said you can use Shop Pay or something, or a firm or Afterpay. And then I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to use it because I can't afford the shipping cost. And then I never saw it here. Then all of a sudden I saw it everywhere. All the websites have it. Even Amazon. If you buy things through Amazon now, it'll show you payment options, and it'll actually give one of those companies as an option to do too. And Amazon was already doing interest on people who had credit cards before, letting them do monthly payments. But now you can use one of these programs as a payment method instead too. And if you go to an Amazon Fresh or 360 or a Whole Foods, you can actually use a firm or Afterpay to pay your groceries there too. So, geez, man, it's crazy.
Yeah, I'm looking at all these different things. The late fees are either $8 or 25% of your purchase, whichever is I want to say, was it more or less? Oh, whichever is less. But
no,
these get reported to credit agencies. It's here's another story. Especially if Sam's watching, this is a good one. But it looks like one of the biggest labor strikes is about to happen, and it's gonna be UPS related. So let's watch this little CNN report here on that.
Now to some vanilla chai latte news. In an unprecedented vote, Starbucks employees at one store in New York.
Oh, this is actually, I think this is just a video about the Starbucks stuff, but basically contract negotiations are set to begin in the spring between the UPS and the Teamsters Union ahead of their current contract's expiration in July of 2023. Already before the talks have started, labor experts are predicting that the drivers and package handlers go on strike. C's, you said you had heard a little bit about this. What are your thoughts about it initially?
Yeah, my mom worked directly under postmaster for almost 10 years in Placentia or Uvalde. I can't remember what city. And I remember I remember actually, I don't know if people remember this, but around 2019 or 2020, they were really pushing for more people to sign up for positions as mail carriers. And if you do remember, that's one of the positions that was considered emergency. And a lot of the workers worked throughout COVID, a lot of times, and then they work throughout the seasons, going home to home, and they work in exorbitant conditions, but they saw very minimal raises. They were only sometimes offered the standard cost of living raise that only a few counties offer. And this was actually foreseen for a while. I know that people talk about the post office the USPS was already suffering a lot in terms of being able to. Remember, Trump had that whole thing going on with it being expensive. Remember, during the campaign, they were talking about USPS and what to do with it, and should it be a government, or should it be a commercial or privatized? There was a lot of discussions about that in the past, and it looks like that's what's going to happen. And I'm very curious what's going to occur, because there's already been. I feel like they're going to use some of that conversation in the past to fuel not being able to pay these people more, and hopefully it doesn't lead to it being privatized, because that's the last thing I'd want for USPS to become privatized.
He said UPS.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought you were talking about USPS, because that was actually something that's been going on too. My bad.
Oh no, yeah, that's the number of times I have different back and forths with my friends who confuse the USPS and UPS.
God damn!
You be going. It's hard to get in there when you start going, dog.
No, but this is for UPS, so they're already private. But a lot of the things you were saying still apply, though. What part of what we're saying here is that the Teamsters union president, the one who especially works with UPS, basically ran on taking a more militant approach, and people will be hungry to take on the company. And a lot of the things that UPS workers have been angry about, let's see, as I'm reading over here, there's strains in the company. UPS said the average pay for its delivery drivers is $95,000 a year, with benefits such as the traditional pension plan and all those other different things. But basically what they're arguing is that amid record profits, that there's more that UPS could be doing for its workers. Basically saying everybody's getting richer except their members. So let's see. UPS is one of the best friends labor has in the ranks of U.S. corporate management, despite the obvious tensions. UPS is one of the few unionized employers that is significantly adding payrolls and to union membership. So, even though some of the conflict between UPS may not be as intense as what's going on as USPS, for example, because the Postal Service with Louis DeJoy and all the Trump cronies who are still there, who are actively trying to sabotage it. That's a massive issue that's going on. But if you have a situation where you could have a stronger win with a place like UPS, where you have so many workers represented by them, I think there's a number up here that said 6% of total US GDP is handled by UPS drivers, UPS trucks, that entire system. Yeah, estimated 6% of the nation's nation GDP is moved in UPS trucks every year. If you have a bunch of those workers who have a lot of protections, who are well paid, who do get a lot of benefits, that only creates pressure for FedEx employees, United States Postal Service workers to have a standard of something they can look towards and say that, hey, we should be getting this kind of treatment as well. We should be fighting for this as well. That's why it's good that Starbucks is unionizing, because then people at Coffee Bean and people at Pete's and people at all the local joints are going to be like, okay, well, what can we do to level the playing field so that we can work at this job? And, you're not going to be balling as a barista. You also shouldn't be homeless as a barista either.
So they're going to be going on strike. I wonder how that's going to affect places like FedEx, because if I'm not mistaken, FedEx is not unionized. If I'm not mistaken, like that was always kind of the thing. Like UPS is unionized, but FedEx is not. And I wonder how much pressure a place like UPS feels from Amazon, because like Amazon, you get deliveries from Amazon people in their own cars at like Sunday at 9 p.m. sometimes. Like, I don't know what's going on. Like, I don't know how much that affects a place like UPS. I don't really know like their business like that, but it's still it's a private company, and it's there's competition.
Yeah, Sam's kind of chiming in because I know she knows a lot about that world, saying, "Oh yeah, the trucks don't even have AAC in them, and they pay UPS to accept their returns and whatnot." So like, USPS has that relationship with them. There's a lot of companies that have that sort of like heavy relationship, so it will be a big issue. Again, these are predicted to happen next summer, so I think the strike would definitely hit a lot harder if it were to happen, honestly, in like Q4.
Yeah. No. So wait, what I would imagine they're delaying the strike for that long so they can like figure it out before then.
No, they're delaying the strike because that's when the contract expires. So like you obviously have more leverage the sooner the contract expires. So if you were to do a strike in like right now, where the fall, like right now in the fall as it's coming up, yeah, you'd get some political attention from the midterms maybe, but the truth is the leverage that they'd be taking, the leverage that the workers would be taking is in this contract. And so if they don't feel like they can pressure UPS enough, then they may not get what they want to. On the other hand, the most important time for UPS for any shipping, whatever, is around the holidays, because that's when a lot of people are getting gifts. But damn, Sam getting straight screwed up the hell here with Nightbot. But like,
well, I wonder if that's also like a consideration. Like, if we go on strike around holiday season, people are just going to use whatever they can. They're going to use whatever. They're just going to okay. We can't use UPS, so we're going to use whatever we can. So they want to do it like when it's a time where it's a bit more advantageous to them, also.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I'm alluding to. That's probably going to be in a time that's most advantageous to them. But I in my ideal world, the contract had to be ratified by November 2022, so that right now the UPS workers could be saying, "Hey, listen, if you want us to continue to deliver all this stuff for you, especially through the Christmas season, through the holiday season, you're going to have to come to the table and give us more of what we want to. Otherwise, these packages are going to be sitting at warehouses. They're going to be mad at y'all, and they're going to start going to FedEx. And we know how to do this job anywhere. We can go ahead and go over there with them and cause hell wherever we want to, because that's the fun with worker power."
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of worker power, guys, I do have to run. Hopefully I'm not fired for this, but I do gotta go.
Oh no, it's all good. We'll remember this on your quarterly report. It's fine. No, it's all good. Bam, thank you for being on. Check Bam out on We Made It podcast with C's every week. WeMadeItPodcast.com. That's still a link that works, right?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Got a new member, a woman from Canada.
Love that. Left the box, probably could be. But anyways, we will see you later. Bam. Give me a second, C's, to like readjust all of the like picture-in-picture stuff to get you on here because I had BAM set to the second one. Guys, I love OBS. OBS is such a simple program, easy to use. Never gives you issues.
Oh yeah, OBS is a flawless system with no problems at all.
So, see, is there any stories this week? Because we went through things really quickly. I usually don't like go through segments and stuff, but we did a good job about talking about everything. Are there any stories this week that you felt like should have more attention, got your attention, are kind of on that like we have a spin on it? Because I have a few more, but I definitely want to see if there's anything you have.
So I guess I'll give a little bit of update. I don't know if people have been following Brazil's elections, which is heating up right now. We're getting close to it right now. Recently, Brazil's current president, Bolsonaro, did a whole interview with Brazil's largest media provider and news agency, which is global. And they have a big news segment called Jornal Nacional, which is on in between like primetime TV in Brazil. Kind of like ABC World News was with Peter Jennings, you know what I mean? Like in that primetime slot.
Right.
And he was on there, you know, and they were pressing him, asking him about his question, saying, remember when you said that the vaccine would turn you to a crocodile? And then it's an insane video. It's a lot of fun to watch. Of course, it sucks as it's Portuguese, but it's an insane video of them just like 2v1 pressing him. It's really funny. And of course, he's stammering. And we all know Bolsonaro is a 4-time COVID champion, you know, 4-time champ. My man stayed getting COVID. Yeah, he was on there doing that. And he's made a lot of really disparaging and dehumanizing comments about the Minister of Health, like other people for Brazil, and right now he's doing horrible. His numbers are awful. Lula's doing really strong numbers right now, and he's already declaring the election rigged. So, yeah, it's not looking too good for Big Bolsonaro, dog. It's not looking good for him.
There was this that reminds me of this super dumb argument that people on the left online were saying, because Bernie Sanders had posted or like had put forth this resolution saying that the United States will only affirm whoever is the democratically elected winner of the Brazilian elections, basically painting the way for saying that, like, listen, the United States is not going to settle for or respect if Jair Bolsonaro makes an attempt to steal the election or to do his own like military coup. And there were leftists who were saying, oh, look at imperialist Bernie Sanders, who's trying to get involved with the politics of Brazil. Like,
God, dude.
Well, we can't have nice things.
We can't have nice things because clearly you don't know jack nothing that's happening down there, my friend. You know nothing. You know nothing. Probably don't even know that Brazil the elections are literally enforced. So I don't even know that either. No, if anything, they should be feeling bad for the atrocities that Lula suffered serving jail time during the previous election when they just threw the case out of court and he was tried for nothing. So how about you talk about that? He was improperly jailed. He had no access to any newspaper or television interviews. You could only see his lawyer for 30 minutes a week and was offered one phone call. And when he asked to go see his nephew that was passing away, the judge said no, and his nephew passed away. So we can talk about way more than what you think, Mr. Leftist, my friend. There's way worse things that have been going on down there. If anything, the election seemed to be a little more fair than ever.
Yeah. I want to shout out on YouTube really fast because Thomas Mundo is holding it down. Saying Amazon está haciendo lo mismo con Amazon Pay, which my Spanish helps me understand. That means that Amazon's doing a similar thing with Amazon Pay, basically letting people do these buy now, pay later kind of schemes. So
no, exactly. Is Thomas in America? Are you in another country?
Yeah, Thomas, let us know where you are messaging from. We're super cool about that because you've sent messages in English and in Spanish, so we super love that. You're also saying fuera de joy de USPS, so get the joy out of USPS, hella hard, and viva Lula.
Yeah, no, and like Thomas said, en los Estados Unidos ya tienen esos programas por mucho tiempo donde puedes comprar los pagamentos on layaway para mucho tiempo que hacen en los Estados Unidos también. And they use Affirm and not just Amazon Pay. So yeah, Amazon has already been doing that stuff for, unfortunately, a minute. It's kind of sad, actually. It's like, damn.
Yeah.
Amazon's supposed to be like your cheap option. I gotta get layaway on a cheap option? What the hell?
Yeah, imagine going to Costco and realizing that you have to put things like...
Yeah. Costco's like, yeah, we have a discount on the discount, but you could pay monthly for it. Like, what?
Yeah, you know it's going to be bad when people start affirming gas. Which like...
Damn, I want to test that. Am I able to do that? Not I'm going to be the official Affirm tester for the podcast.
Gonna just murder your credit.
Everywhere I go, I'm just using Affirm. Oh, what are we? What is this Heat nightclub in Costa Mesa? Can I use Affirm? No? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Hopefully, please keep an eye on that election. I hope that it doesn't get and some. One thing. I talked about this a little bit last week on my solo stream, but this kind of hit a fever pitch this week, and so I want to highlight it. But Keffels, who is a trans Twitch streamer, had been in this fight with a website known as Kiwi Farms. They are like 4chan, but somehow much worse. They are known for basically organizing brigades of hate on the internet, whether it's for we gotta get some Kumi cam right now, whether it's against women or leftists or people in the LGBTQ plus community. They love just doing this. And you escape. That's how it would be with cats. But they love just doing whatever they can to make the lives of people they disagree with ideologically miserable. And there had been stories about, let me see if I have this one thing. There had been stories about how Kiwi Farms had been getting swatted, how people were like posting her parents' address, her own address. When she tried to escape and go to a motel, they found the sheets at the motel, and they were able to cross-reference which motel bought those sheets particularly they're able to use. So, like, absolute ends, like running her out the country, calling police in other countries to try to get their attention. And overall, like, her life just became hell. Like, this talks about how on the morning of August 5th in London, Ontario, police put an assault rifle in Clara Sorrenti's face because she had gotten swatted, which pretty much ends up in a situation like that where the police think they're going into a dangerous situation, so they come to your house armed and dangerous, ready to kill you, not knowing that they've actually been pranked, that someone called the police on their behalf in an attempt to assassinate you or get you killed by the police in that way. Kumi is doing some hilariously cute stuff.
She for a little quick context, because this Kiwi Farms thing is very serious and an insane story. Especially if you're someone that like follows a lot of streamers and stuff like that. It's crazy. My mom is of course in Hawaii again for a long time, and I'm watching a dog. And Kumi is the most patient, kind cat ever, but she still don't trust the dog. She's like, I don't know what this dog's up to. So she's acting all weird when the dog moves. But yeah, I think Taylor posted something about this too, about Kiwi Farms and insane. And it's actually pretty common. I was wondering, I know people, the swatting thing was like absolutely insane. There was like a streamer recently that was had a stream up. I forgot who it was, and this whole swatting was caught on camera too. It's absolutely horrifying and so intense. I can't believe people just like literally go out their way to set this. Yeah, Ludwig too, and I know someone else too. That was it. Ludwig where it was actually live. It was Ludwig. Yeah. Crazy, just absolutely crazy with the SWATs, man. There was actually a streamer that someone had passed away, I believe, too, from something like this a few years ago. That was a common story too. I don't
know if it was a streamer, but I know it was like a kid who was just playing box like with his friends on the Call of Duty.
Yeah, it was a kid that was playing. Yeah, it wasn't a streamer. It was a kid. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they swatted him, and then it was like a whole wild story. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it was like in Kansas and Nebraska or something, and kid actually swatted and died. It was like it was a whole really tragic, sad mess that shouldn't have gone as it did, and But so swatting can be very dangerous. But a lot of times they're singling out people on the left, transgender people, neurodivergent people, and the site Kiwi Farms is connected to the suicides of at least 3 people who were were targets of their sustained harassment. And basically Keffels decided no more. She started delete Kiwi Farms, or it was basically a campaign to remove it off the internet by highlighting what they had done in history, all the harassing they were doing that was illegal, and by targeting their web host, Cloudflare, which is, they host a lot of things, they host a lot of companies, but in these situations, you want to try to target the companies who host these websites because they have terms of service. Cloudflare doesn't want to be sued for all the stuff Kiwi Farms is doing. So they have terms of services that they have to abide by. Their lawyers make them abide by. Of course, this happens on a case-by-case basis, and you have to get enough attention for someone to overrule the general way things work, which is how nothing gets censored, nothing gets taken offline. It has to get so bad, there has to be so much attention, or it has to potentially be a business danger for Cloudflare that they turn around and follow what Keffels is saying, and they delete Cloudflare, and they delete Kiwi Farms. But yeah, she did a Twitter campaign, she did a whole bunch of different things to put attention on them. But who would you think would be the one person who would see that there is a clear harassment campaign going on against a trans woman, where they are being effectively censored from the internet, and who would turn around and defend the people who were leading on the harassment campaign? No other than Caesar's boy, Glenn Greenwald.
It just sucks because I just want to let you guys know that I want to read Glenn Greenwald's tweets. I want to be mad at Glenn Greenwald. I want to clap him in Portuguese and English, but he blocked me. Okay.
Like a bitch.
So I do not get the liberties of seeing Glenn Greenwald being a homophobic asshole online, unfortunately.
It's sad. But some of what he's saying is, so this is from the Tom Zone, who curated all these tweets, saying, for someone committed to free speech, it's cool Glenn won't actually state outright he's defending Kiwi Farms, but instead tucks it into screenshots. So yeah, this is part of Glenn Greenwald saying, but the worst is watching people whose job title in corporate HR departments is journalist take the lead in agitating for censorship. They exploit the platforms of corporate giants to pioneer increasingly dangerous means of banning dissenters. Now, again, Glenn Greenwald is saying that Kiwi Farms, who is leading a harassment campaign against a trans streamer, that's equivalent to censorship. That people who are talking about getting this platform kicked off of the internet for violating terms of service and violating the law and actually putting people's lives in danger, very logically being responsible for the deaths of at least 3 other people, and calls that banning dissenters. It's like when we had that clip the couple weeks ago of Jimmy Dore comparing Alex Jones to Telesur. It's like, dude, it's not even apples and oranges. It's like apples and mushrooms, like magic mushrooms, dog. Like he's not a right comparison.
It's like apples and Pop Rocks. It's just not. You're not in the same avenue, dog.
Both of them confuse veterans. Now, some of these tweets that are embedded in here, Ben Collins is like, yeah. It's pointing. You would think that Glenn Greenwald is talking about some actual situation about journalists being censored or banning or dissent, but you look at the embedded screenshots, it's all about the Kiwi Farm stuff. This is also the same week that Libs of TikTok posted about the Boston Children's Hospital, which is why this
How
is
that account still going, dude? Oh my god.
And the Boston Children's Hospital got death threats because of all the attention from Libs of TikTok.
Well, wherever you're banning Andrew Tate, but Libs of TikTok still able to function. It's disgusting, dude.
Yeah, like there needs to be a lot more proactive action on these things because, as we've said, deplatforming works.
Yeah,
it's very obvious when there's a bad faith game being played with these kind of people, and we need to get better at calling it out on it. And
no, for sure. And I think that if you're spreading rhetoric that causes violence or threats or harm on others, why should you be allowed to platform that? Makes no goddamn sense for that. Like, I don't understand. Come on. Even when Trump got banned, I know conservatives are upset, but everyone was like, I mean, yeah, come on, Doug, you're wilding. You're absolutely wilding. Like, you have massive influence and power. I'm sorry, dude. So. Same thing with like a damn hospital getting death threats. That's insane to me.
Tom Zone continues. Anyhow, I like how Glenn takes the time to clarify that he's not being obsessive, and in fact, his sole thing right now is focusing on his family in the middle of his 1,169 word thread.
Oh God!
I'm going to domain. He says the end of this tweet, and it's a long tweet thread where he's like going on through this. He says, I'm going to remain detached until the health crisis in our family is resolved. But internet freedom and free speech are not ancillary causes. They are central. This is the core cause the Snowden report.
Yes, I'm working on myself as the conservative way of saying a mental health break, and the man can't even say that. He's still popping off 1,100 word threads on Twitter. What a bozo that guy is, dude.
I love that I love that Kiwi Farms is being compared to, that's right, the Snowden reporting. Like, nothing means anything anymore, dude. Like, it's just...
You're just allowed to write stuff and press submit. That's why they're making edit buttons for this fool right here, man. That's why they're trying to get the edit going for this idiot. What? God, and he's so proud of these damn screenshots too. You know, he's so proud of them.
Yeah, he's. This is what this guy lives for. Kind of sad to see how far he has come down, but I don't know. We really went through news quick. I don't.
We kind of did blow through it, dude.
I literally, usually I plan Power Report. Like, lately I've had planned Power Report with 10 different stories, and we get through 4. Because I end up spending 45 minutes on each one. I'm like, damn, I need to get a little bit less winded here. And now we're just, running through these bitches, every 10 minutes. I'm like, yo, I did not produce enough this.
Oh, God.
I'm, over here on stream, fucking,
I did not see that trailer. What?
Oh, Channel 5's Alex Jones interview. The full thing is up. We might as well.
It's up already?
I'm pretty sure it is.
Wow.
Yeah,
we're dropping heat right now.
You can watch it. Yeah,
No, it's not up yet.
Oh, it isn't?
No, the last thing you uploaded was the O Block thing, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, Alex Jones
video, which was really good too.
Alex Jones gave an exclusive interview to Andrew Callahan, Channel 5, which I if I were his lawyers, I would not have recommended he do that.
Yeah, no, Andrew Gallon. It's so crazy that like the weirdo, all the super weirdo right people, like from the QAnons to this, they're all. It's just because Andrew comes off as this very cool, chill surfer white guy. They're down for the view. But I'm like, all he does is flame you in his YouTube, dude. It's just like he's so good at it too. It's like so flawless the way he does it. Like he looks so. Yeah, it's the best. Like when the Utah one was a good one too. When he's seeing like the Utah kids.
Yeah. I've really liked his stuff lately. I think he's
Actually my favorite, to be honest, and it was actually real journalism. His Ukraine one was really good, dude. When he went to Ukraine, that was so good. Like it was really nice to just like whenever you see reporters go to like to the street and there's literally just talk to people there. Like he went to like a couple shelters and stuff and was like speaking to people. That was like really emotional. That was really good. I love that stuff.
Yeah. Highly recommend that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was just reading some other stuff. I was literally just scrolling like r/news, seeing like what is kind of like going up on here. But I mean, the midterm was like, there's always like the horse race aspect of things because we're now like 6 weeks away from the election. I think I don't know if we have your predictions on record, C's, but I think currently it's looking like Democrats are going to lose the House. They may actually keep the Senate, but as we're looking at likely voters, it's possible they lose the Senate too. If that happens, yeah, it's pretty much kind of over for America because you're going to get 2 years of Joe Biden promising all the things that he tried to do over the previous 2 years, but had actual Democratic support. And of course, we'll remember Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema gumming up all the works all the time. But it would. Joe Rogan and Kyrsten Sinema are going to. Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema are going to seem like a godsend when you have an actual Republican majority in the Senate, an actual Republican majority in the House, because then they're going to be able to pass fake bills like, let's ban gay people. Let's make the time Jesus parted the Red Sea a national holiday. Let's make that a federal holiday, right? They'll just start passing a bunch of bills and saying, look at what the left is voting against. They don't want to make Jesus parting the Red Sea a national holiday. They're clearly communists and socialists. We should probably kill them all, but at least vote them out in 2024. And shit's going to work. And you're going to get Donald Trump or Ron DeSantis or some other actual proto-fascist in office. And then America's really going to be all gas, no brake. But yeah, it really is. I hate that Democrats have successfully made every single midterm the most important midterm of our lives. But like, fuck, this is also a very important midterm.
It's just, there's a lot of poor communication, a lot of poor, this dog is going crazy. I never get a dog. A lot of poor communication, a lot of poor, is it like advertising, I guess, to like people. They always make it seem like you said, like every single one is like the one we have to do is to die for. And I think what happens is that unless you're implementing more action, what Biden did with the debt relief was great, but they don't do that. The Democratic Party doesn't do that consistently enough. So for every time you emphasize the importance of it, the people aren't seeing the reward of it, right? The people aren't consistently seeing the reward. They go, man, you said that last time, and then all of a sudden it's illegal to get married, like, you know what I mean? So it's like, that's the notion I think a lot of people get, a lot of young Democrats get, or a lot of young like fringe Democrats, I guess you want to call them, or especially fringe voters. I'm curious to see kind of how it goes. Still, I'm gonna really be watching this week. So I feel like it's with the way the news cycle has been, I feel like it's gonna be very impactful on a week-to-week basis on how we're gonna get to that point. And man, I really hope we do not lose those seats. Please, dude. Please do not make it Republican Senate seat. Yeah. Please, I don't want House of Representatives all Republican. I don't want that. Please, no one wants that. You don't want that. I don't want that. Please, no.
Fetterman's looking strong against Oz. At least say that. That's looking promising. I'm happy about that.
Absolute. I cannot believe. Never mind. I'm not good about that.
No, let's do it. Let's do it.
This dude, bro. This guy, Dr. Oz. Why are we giving this man time of day? This is the same dude. Didn't he say like during COVID, he had that crazy quote. It was like, "Oh yeah, like it's like tempting to send kids back to school. Only 2% die anyways." I was like, "What? You're a doctor? What the fuck?" Like, he's an absolute psycho, man. I hate that guy.
He's not sending our best.
No.
That's for sure. Yeah, I'm. To me, I get whiplash from the entire idea that Dr. Oz, like, he was like, I still remember vaguely like him being introduced by Oprah Winfrey as like, oh yeah, remember, here's this Dr. Oz guy. We're actually gonna give him his own show on ABC a little bit after me, like Dr. Phil. Great decisions, Oprah. Thanks, Oprah. Really doing us a solid there. And now, and this is something I'm exploring in a larger project too, so maybe I'd love to get your thoughts on it, is this just another path to being a celebrity? Like, at some point you run for president after all your TV deals dry up? Or like you run for office?
I mean, it started off with Reagan, and then it got to Schwarzenegger, and you knew it was downhill when Schwarzenegger. You know it was downhill from there. Dr. Oz, I think that like he coming out as like a conservative mouthpiece. I especially like, this is the man that Sam mentioned in chat. He pushed those weird diets on people on his show. Yeah, he has like the weird diets. He's like easily bought out for infomercials, and he uses his doctorate and being a doctor as like a certification for it. And I'm like, that should literally be illegal. You should literally get your license revoked, because people are trusting you on these products and things because you're a doctor, and you're steering people insanely wrong. Like, there's a whole compilation on YouTube where like jokes about like things that Dr. Oz has like shelled and shilled to people, and it being like awfully just not working on garbage. He's like basically just a little QVC baby, like, honestly.
Yeah, because he's a salesman mostly,
Yeah.
right? Like, that is.
I know he's been accredited for his surgery, right? He's like pretty accredited for that, allegedly. Like, apparently he's able to do surgery well, but when it comes to like implementing policies to help people, no, he's just a bozo asshole salesman who's like a conservative now, or is a conservative, not what now.
Yeah. That was. He's mostly just a salesman, and that is the most I can see from him. Maybe like, so like Ben Carson, right? Like, maybe he had in the past an ability to do brain surgery. Like, I'm pretty sure Ben Carson had the ability to do brain surgery, but he found that he was able to do something even better, which was to market himself as a black conservative and to cash in on his, status as a brain surgeon, and all the climbing through history in America and all that stuff that entails, in order to build his own brand, to build his own character. Like, people weren't fucking with Ben Carson, the brain surgeon, just because he was a brain surgeon, all right? But now people know him as, oh, you're one of the Republican guys, you're one of the Trump guys. People would jump behind his political career, whatever, right? Or like Herschel Walker. He's another like celebrity type kind of running, trying to get in the Senate too. And that would be disastrous. But even if he loses, he walks himself into a media deal at Fox or Newsmax, or he could start his own podcast venture or whatever. Like, I'm starting to see a pattern here in Republican politics where they're able to just run celebrities and convince them that things will be okay for them, even if they don't win, because you're a washed up celebrity anyways, and this is one of the better things you have going for.
I definitely I mentioned it in the chat that the Queen's chilling with Ben Carson now. Ben Carson, infamously the greatest passing away.
Don't you mean Herman Cain?
Remember? No, didn't he passed away during 2021 also, right?
I mean, Ben Carson's just asleep all the time. I don't think he's like dead.
No, Ben Carson. No, dude. Ben Carson passed away, right?
No, Ben Carson's alive.
Oh.
You're confusing your blacks, man. Herman Cain.
I got my hopes up. I'm sorry.
It's Herman Cain who's
Whatever.
out skiing now.
Fuck them both, dog. It's one of those days, Dan. I'm sorry, Dan. We're
No, it's all good.
Look, y'all. There's a heat wave going on in California. This is a lot. Okay. I'm in Long Beach, California. I had to eat 108-degree weather by the water. That's illegal, dude. 108 degrees here. That's illegal.
Dude, we have our air conditioner is not powerful enough in my house, so we've resorted to, and we're renting, so like we're not gonna go hard, right? So we've resorted to a bunch of mini air conditioners just like running in the house at all times, and it's like not the most energy efficient thing, but at the same time it is, because we start running them in the morning, and the house actually gets pretty cool throughout the day. And so we can like afford to turn the thermostats up a little bit, and it's livable. But yeah, when it's hot here, it's just like undoable. Like, I really feel for a lot of people out there right now who are just, places like Long Beach where you're close up to the beach, you're not supposed to need air conditioning. The places are not like built for air conditioning or built with those requirements, and not mine. But now they're definitely needed, and those are going to turn out being the places where people are going to get heat stroke and suffer and die and stuff.
No, you're supposed to be doing your flex alert. What are you doing? Don't turn AC on, just die. Like I put it on Twitter, my message back to Edison, like, what are you trying to do to me, dog? Come on now. It's 108. You want me to turn my AC off? You're insane. You do that. You turn your AC off.
You built that.
You you do that. You do it.
No, I totally agree. Shit. This was such a day in news. Like, we were, this day is gonna live in it.
Yeah, from the Queen passed away, which I felt like something that was like, it was one of those things where I like kind of saw it like eventually happening. Like that was kind of like the thing everybody was talking about for a while, ever since she was like being treated and stuff.
Yeah, there's that article last year that was like, the Queen is transitioning to a new phase now. We won't see her that much publicly, and I'm like, what? Are y'all spirit mediums?
B95. I think the only thing that really bothered me the most, like watching, like I know a lot of people really fantasized about the Queen and stuff like that, and like went crazy about it, and when they would show the Meghan Markle stuff, and I would just like, I remember the first time ever seeing like the places they live, and I was like, oh my god, like what? Yo, we're just okay with this. Do you see this crib they got? Jesus, man. Look at how many slaves built that house. Oh my god, man. It's so insane. Like y'all are really out here booing up monarchies. Come on now. What the hell?
The worst thing I saw out of all of that, like as we wrap things down, is there were, and it all goes back to class. There were people who were like, Pakistani American or like Indian American, who are now like prominent political pundits now. And they were saying, all the stuff that's happening on Twitter right now with people celebrating the Queen's death is just insane. Look at this Pakistani newspaper with the headline mourning the Queen's death. And I'm like, yeah. And here's the New York Times and what they have on their front page. This is representative of what people think. Like,
we like Americans are the weirdest about it to me, because it's like we agree. I mean, literally, Americans fought off the British to get independence and establish a democracy. Blah, blah, blah. Like literally, this country runs on democracy, sort of, and like literally, they run the complete opposite when it comes to that. They have a monarchy, literally, and the people are like, "Oh man, it's so tragic," and all this and this. I'm like, it's really funny because there's a lot of countries in America go around and start stomping around and booting when they don't run the same kind of politics as us. But England, they're like, we already ran the hands once over there. You know what I mean? We're not into that. We're allies. But it's like, yeah, dog. But look what England does worldwide. Like America's pretty bad too, but they still have grips on like many countries worldwide. People are absolutely parasocial about, like you said, people about royal families. I said it earlier in the show. TV shows, the obsession with like the medieval times genre in general, which there's a lot of racism tied because we all see the people on those shows. And it's like this fascination with attaching it to real life. And it's like, nah, dog. I mean, literally her son or like it's not like how it is in the movies where, oh, here comes the handsome king. I'm like, dog, even with the Meghan Markle, it's not how you think it is in a movie. It's a little bit different. The queen is a 96-year-old woman who literally is like, now what, who's next in line? It's like, he's like 79 or something. It's like a whole bunch of old demons, dude.
Yeah, it's amazing how we are in a place where the monarchs are like all of the vestiges of Western Empire are falling. Like England has less relevance in the world stage than ever. America is losing relevance in the world stage. And part of it's because these countries are led by people who, if they aren't part of this like old bygone generation, then they are still worship it. Like England has a new prime minister this weekend, and I'm sure she's happy that some of the heat's off of her. But I forget her name, but she seems to be like a Thatcher 2.0 like type fangirl person. She seems to be just as into right wing Liz Truss. Yeah, she seems to be right into right wing austerity politics as much as Boris Johnson was and as much as Margaret Thatcher was, right? Yeah. And austerity politics is just going to be the end of the empire because you tell the public that you're going to be taxing regular people more and taking away more of their services when they're already being squeezed and already going to be strained, and the guillotines are going to start rolling out. This is how Europe works, right? Like,
is she a Tory or what?
Yes. So
oh my God.
Once Boris Johnson was basically given the vote of no confidence and he was booted out. This is how Parliament works, all right? There was no vote again. Basically, this is the idea of Donald Trump is voted out because Republicans decide, okay, you're now too crazy for us. We don't want you anymore. But the American public doesn't get to decide. And it's not Mike Pence who comes up afterward. The Republicans meet together in a room and they go, you know what? Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to be our girl now. And she's president because we just all decided in a room together that this is how it's going to be. That's pretty much how it is. So until the next snap election, which I've told people off camera, I give her 8 months. In England, I give her 8 months before the next snap election or the next vote of no confidence or whatever, because Britain is it's in the shitter, and it's not, nothing is gonna be good coming out of that little shit island for a little bit.
Oi, bruv.
Just smashing a bev, the mangy pangy, literally called mangy pango. It's kind of disgusting.
Yeah.
Generally one of the worst beers I've had. All right. Let's call it. We did a lot of news today. Thank you.
I'm about to get me a burrito.
I'm about to get me there's a new vegan restaurant by me that I'm not going to say the name of because I'm just actually, but they have very funny branding out there. And I'm definitely going to try out something they make today. But thank you very much for watching everyone on stream. I am going to be on Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie on TYT tomorrow at 11:30 Pacific. That's 2:30 Eastern. I know time zones. And then the Power Reports, the last one and this one will be uploaded as a podcast later this weekend, and then Audio Face returns for God, we're going to be doing so much music, it's going to make my head spin. It's going to hurt. But anyways, really good music releases coming out later this year. Check them all out, including a bonus episode with Bam that's going to be exclusive for Syndicate 23 members on Junior Boys. So definitely check that out. That's going to be great. Join.syndicate23.co for all of those things. C's can be found on We Made It C's on Twitter, and all the other stuff you're doing. You have your Vita sort of like vlog things on YouTube as well that people can check out.
Yes,
love seeing those.
There's just dropped a video, another one coming this week. Check it out. We Made It C's on YouTube.
Hell yeah. Thank you very much for watching. We will see you all next week for more whatever the world brings us in news. Cheers, y'all.